So today's gospel actually in Matthew continues the Sermon on the Mount. It's not just a simple Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount's done. No, the Sermon on the Mount is actually much longer than most people give it credit for. Christ goes into great detail after he elaborates on the Beatitudes, and this is part of that Sermon on the Mount still. In the Sermon on the Mount, he also impresses upon them the absolute necessity to follow God's law in its fullness, to not look for shortcuts around God's ways, and the necessity of one to live in union and communion with God in order to accomplish any good at all. And this is all again, this is all part of the Sermon on the Mount. It lasts for quite a while, actually. That he spends up there going over things. He gives them the Beatitudes and he says, this is what you have to do to fulfill these. God's commandments, the law, the prophets, the choice you make, the decisions, the people you spend time with, all these things. He goes into great detail. So it's interesting to read the whole entire Sermon on the Mount and not take the Beatitudes out of their context. But in this gospel today, he uses a couple of examples that are easily understandable for most of us, and one is salt and the other is light. Light is an example he goes back to a number of times actually in the gospels. He uses light as a way to propose a parable to these people and to us. And in today's gospel, he's talking about being the light of the world. Now, light is an extremely important thing for all of us. We've been in darkness before, but we've never been in absolute, total, and complete darkness and stayed there. That's what we have to remember. While we've been in places that are dark, we've never been in a situation where it was absolutely dark and stayed that way. Light is something that we all appreciate, we all take for granted, because we flip a switch and we have it. Light a candle and you got it. Stand outside, you have it. It's all over the place. And so we can't fully comprehend what life would be like without light. It's unfathomable to us. We just can't. And it's even necessary for us, not just physically, but psychologically. Light is a necessity. It's a proven fact that place where there's little light, where there's a lot of darkness, people tend to suffer higher rates of extreme depression, of severe anxiety, and there's greater amounts of people, percentage-wise, taking their own lives. In place where there's less light, where there's a greater darkness. Alaska, for instance, is usually a leader amongst those statistics in the United States because of how much darkness they have there. They have half a year of almost total darkness. And so it's very, very hard mentally and psychologically on the person. And so light is a thing that we need, we like, we enjoy. Shortly after this parable, actually, after the Sermon on the Mount, Christ uses light once again. He says, the light of the body is the eye, the lamp of the body. When the eye is healthy, the body is in light. When the eye is sick, the body is in darkness. And he says, and he goes on to say, when the light that is within you becomes darkness, how great is your darkness? Darkness is something that frightens us, even. I mean, especially as kids, right? Afraid of the dark. There's nothing out there. How many times have you gotten up at night to go to the restroom, for instance, and found something that was out there with your foot that didn't expect to find? And, those are uncomfortable things, but it just reminds us that in the darkness, we have no control over what's out there. Our eyes will adjust a little bit, but they never see clearly and never very far. And so we're apt to have more accidents in the dark. It's just going to happen because, again, that one thing's been taken away from us that enabled us to see. Only in the light can you see what is around you and next to you. When it is absolute darkness, you do not know for certain anymore. Kind of stumbling on through. Say, for instance, if we were to, I don't know, blot out the sun right now, and all we had left was the light in the church. But one by one, we started unscrewing the light bulbs. We'll start in the corner, let's say. At first, we'll notice it. But after a little while, well, it's not that bad. We still have plenty of other light. That one dark corner is not that big of a deal. Well, let's take one of that corner too. And again, not that big of a deal. Oh, we got other light. Our eyes, once it starts to get dim, our eyes will adjust to a certain extent to the dimness, and it will start to become almost normal to us. And this is what the devil does. This is what sin does. This is what vice does. Is it slowly dims, removes the light from certain parts of our lives, and what happens is we can get used to that. Once the light bulb's out, oh well, at the beginning it's a shock, but after a while it's like, oh, it's always been like that. Not a shock, not a big deal. It's always been like that. It's supposed to be dim in that corner. Or one of these days we'll fix it, right? This is what sin does. This is what the devil's after, is to slowly start extinguishing that light in us, but not violently, not quickly eliminating all light, but slowly getting us used to certain parts of our lives where it started to become more dark. It was bright light there before, but now that we've started unscrewing the light bulbs, oh, it's a little dim. To get us used to that, to get us so that it's not a shock to us anymore. Well, that one's out, well, so might as well put that one out. That's what sin does on top of everything, is it slowly adjusts us to life in the darkness. That at the beginning was an absolute shock to us and we did not enjoy it. But the more we just let it stay as a part of our lives without fixing that light, the more the darkness becomes normal to us. This is what Christ says, you know, that if the light in you within you becomes darkness, he says, how great is your darkness then? And when we start to let sin sit and reside in our lives, when we let vice just kind of sit, it will grow. It will start to go after other things. It will start to put out other lights. It's only a matter of time. It's never just satisfied with the one. It always wants the next one too. So the devil will very slowly, very gradually lead us down that road as long as we let him. And he'll put out the light. And we'll find ourselves in darkness. You know, Jesus, he never says those who have the light, those whom he has called to be the light of the world, will not have to face difficulties. He talks about this in a certain way in the parable of the two houses, one built on rock, one built on sand, remember. He never says the house built on rock will not face the same difficulties as the one built on sand. He never says, oh, it'll be fine, wonderful, everything will pass it by. No, he makes it very clear. It will experience many of the same trials as that other house, the one built on sand, the one built on rock. He says the same thing happened to both of them. The winds came, the storm blew, the lightning flashed, and it beat against the house, he says. The one on rock and the one on sand. The one on rock survived because the foundation was solid. He says that's why it withstood the storm, that it was bound to undergo, because it was built on a solid foundation. And so the same is true with us and that light in our lives. To ensure that that light is not put out requires, obviously, obedience to Christ. I have to follow him completely. But then also obedience to his church and the scriptures. Whenever we start to say, well, I'm Catholic, but I don't believe in that, I don't accept that, I'm saying, well, I don't need that light bulb. I don't need that one, I don't need that one. That darkness over there is fine with me. That kind of darkness is okay, I'll accept that. When the church, as Christ's bride, knows very well what kind of storms we're going to face out there. She's been dealing with them for 2,000 years now. If we have a candle and we just decide to walk outside with it like this, what's going to happen when the wind blows? It goes out immediately. This is us entering into this world that has much evil in it. There's no hiding that fact. There's a lot of evil, there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of screwed up things in our world. It's not a shock to any of us. We know it's out there. We do our best to avoid it, but there are times when we will come face to face with it. And that evil will blow like a storm and throw things at us and do everything it can just to put that light out. And the church says, Christ Church, says, I know how you can protect the light. I know how you can keep it from going out. Number one is be obedient to Christ and his church. Number two is a consistent and regular sacramental practice. Meaning I go to Mass on a regular basis. I go to confession on a regular basis. I have a regular prayer life. Let it consistent. These are the things that will surround that candle to prevent the wind from blowing it out. That rock on which that house was built, that because that rock was there, that house withstood the storm. Everything that was thrown at it, it could handle because the foundation was solid. If the flame was protected, no matter how bad the winds blow and the rains fall, that flame will burn. And Christ goes even further. He says, you're supposed to be a city set on a mountain so that everyone can see, he says, what you're doing. We're supposed to be a city on a mountain, a lighted city on a mountain in a world that's very dark. And that's not an easy task sometimes. Lord knows. We all know that. But that light that's within us has been given to us by Christ. And he says, even if all the lights should go out, There's one light that will never go out, and it's that red one right there, because he said, I am the light of the world, and entered into the darkness, and the darkness could not overcome his light. So those who stay close to him are ensured that they will have his light. And he entrusts that to us and says, now you go into the world and be my witnesses to this light. Show people where they can find it. Be a city set on a mountain, not hidden in the valley. Now, if it's all dark and there's a city on a mountain that's lit up, that place becomes a target. Target has two different meanings, keep in mind. The first meaning of a target is something that is aimed at to be destroyed. And this is what the devil, this is what sin, this is what vice will try to do. It'll do everything it can to destroy us, to harm us. It'll throw the storm against us. But that house built on a rock withstood it. The second meaning of target is something people try to reach. In the darkness and hatred and evil and the lost of this world, there are people out there generally scrambling around in the darkness, trying to find the light, because they've never had anybody tell them where they could find it. And they're looking and they're searching and they're the best they can in the pitch black darkness. And if they see a city on a hill that has a light, that's what they're going to try to go to. I need to find out where they got that light, because I want that light. I no longer want to be in darkness. I want to see. And so again, the last aspect of this is that Christ has called us, the light of the world. Think about it. He didn't say only the highest IQ, or only the people with the biggest bank accounts, or only the people with the biggest amount of social media followers. He says, no, I want you to be my witnesses in the world. If some of them want to come along, great. But I want you, the normal people who have to face these things every day, he says, I want you to be my witnesses, because you know what it's like out there. In a world that's filled with other people trying to tell us what to think and what to do, so-called stars, actors, actresses, sports stars, personalities, politicians, everybody and their uncle. Who would we rather listen? Who cares more about me having the light? Christ and his church? Or a world that enjoys the darkness? And so Christ has called us, again, think about it. What an honor. What a grace. He says, I want you to be the light of the world, to be the city set on a hill at this time, in this world, in all the midst of all these things. He says, I want you to be my light out there. And I will be with you on top of that, he promises. He says, the darkness will not overcome my light. So although our candle may flicker a little bit due to our bad decisions, we know that if we just return back to the light, we can ensure it stays burning brightly and be that city set on the hill, to be the light of the world, to be the lamp that gives light to the whole household, because it needs it. It needs light. It needs people to stand up and be that city on the hill and say it's worth. That yes, the storms are painful, the suffering is tough, but the house built on rock withstood it all. And so we've been called to be that light and that sign to the world.